Charleston celebrates its 350th anniversary this year, and to commemorate that, Charleston Pirate Tours brings you Charleston History Highlights. Hi, Eric with Charleston Pirate Tours. I'm out here on the back side of the Isle of Palms along the marsh. We left our story about Blackbeard off a while ago when I said there was a fly in the ointment here. What was that? Well, word had reached the Deputy Governor, Alexander Spotswood in Virginia, about some of Blackbeard's latest problems. Now, he was convinced this man would never quit pirating, and the governor in North Carolina would never do anything about him. He believed he was in cahoots with the man and said, we're going to fix this problem ourselves. Now, there's a problem that he's got. At this point, North Carolina is a proprietary colony. Virginia is a royal commonwealth. And he knew that the King George, wouldn't sign off on him allowing the Royal Navy to go into North Carolina. So he figured it would be easier to ask for forgiveness and permission. So what did he do? He got 2 ships and put these 2 ships under the command of Lieutenant Robert Maynard of the British Royal Navy. These were merchant ships named Jane and Ranger. 60 members of the British Royal Navy were dressed in civilian clothes and sent down to North Carolina to take care of business with Blackbeard. And on the 22nd of November, 1718, those ships were down around in the Pamlico Sound, sitting off Springer's Point, and they see Blackbeard back in that cove. Apparently, Blackbeard spotted them as well. And he started shouting through his speaker horn, "We be for the king, who you be for?" Didn't really get much of a response. And at that point, Blackbeard turned a little sour and said, "Don't plan to come meddle with me, and I shall not meddle with you." And Maynard then responded back, telling him, according to his own ship's log, "But I shall not leave without you, dead or alive." Well, Blackbeard has no clue who these people are. So what does he do? He orders them to raise the sails. They cut the anchor cable and sail out right past them into the Sound. Now, Maynard was at a little bit of a disadvantage since neither of these ships were loaded with cannons. They had plenty of small arms. So he ordered them to fire their guns at Blackbeard's sails. They're shooting holes in the sails to slow him down. And they're in pursuit. And Blackbeard realizes he can't outrun them, so he turns around. But Blackbeard still has all of his cannons and opened up on them. He disabled the ship Ranger, killed Commander Hyde and a number of British soldiers. Unbeknownst to Blackbeard at this point, he has committed the crime of high treason against the crown. Maynard's still in pursuit. Well, all the gun smoke from Blackbeard's cannon fire began to clear. And as it cleared, he realized that ship Jane was sitting beside him. And all he saw was Maynard and a couple of men. At that point, he thought, well, we've killed them all but them. Let's just cut them to pieces and get out of here. Now, Blackbeard at that point had 9 men standing beside him and said, "You 9 are coming with me." So they jumped over onto Jane. And as soon as they landed on the ship's deck, that is when Maynard yelled, and before they could turn around, they were surrounded by British soldiers that had been hiding. And in less than 6 minutes, Blackbeard and his 9 were dead. Blackbeard was killed in this fight when one of Maynard's men slipped behind him, pulled out a very large sword and hit him from behind. The first strike hit him just below his neck on his shoulder, knocked him to the deck. And Blackbeard responded to him, "Aye, it was a good one, mate." And then the man looked at Blackbeard and said, "Then you should like this one even more." And he brought down that sword and took his head right off. His body was examined before they tossed it overboard. He had 5 bullet holes and 20 stab wounds from a cutlass. Yeah, they had to cut the booger's head off just to kill him. Now, Maynard ordered his men to go get up the rest of Blackbeard's crew. When they boarded Adventure, Blackbeard's men have now seen the carnage that took place, dropped their weapons and surrendered, and are eventually taken back up to Virginia, where they will be tried and eventually executed for treason. Why treason, not piracy? Simply because they still had no idea that that was a stolen ship, but they could charge him with treason, a capital crime. and that is what they were eventually executed for. Blackbeard's head was handed to Spotswood as a trophy and proof of death. Well, Spotswood was so pleased he stuck it on a pike, stabbed the pointy end of that spike up in the ground along the edge of the James River near what is today Hampton, Virginia, to display his head to the world, so everyone now knew that Blackbeard was dead and gone, and his days of piracy were finally over at the ripe age of 28. Happy birthday, Charleston.